Shadow Protocol. The vast emptiness of space stretched before the observation deck of the EDF Indomitable, humanity's last flagship. Admiral Elena Kovacs stood with her hands clasped behind her back, her weathered face illuminated by the cold light of distant stars. For 3 years, humanity had been fighting a losing war against the Viridian Collective, an expansionist alien empire whose technological superiority had pushed Earth's defenses to the breaking point. "They're moving into position, Admiral," reported Commander Wei, her tactical officer. "The Viridian fleet will reach Saturn's orbit within 36 hours. Elena nodded grimly. "And our reinforcements. The Jupiter garrison is en route, but they won't arrive in time. We have 23 ships against their armada of over 200. The bridge fell silent. Everyone knew what those numbers meant. "Then we proceed with Shadow Protocol," Elena said, her voice steady despite the weight of the decision. "Alert Commander Tanaka. It's time." In the specialized training facility deep beneath the lunar surface, Commander Hiroshi Tanaka was completing his final preparation cycle. At 42, he was older than most active field operatives, but no one questioned his presence on this mission. His grandfather had been one of Japan's last practicing ninjas before dedicating himself to teaching, passing down centuries of knowledge about stealth, infiltration, and survival to his grandson. The military had transformed those ancient arts with cutting-edge technology, creating what they now called ghost operatives, specialists who could move unseen even in the most hostile environments. But none had mastered the integration of traditional techniques and modern technology like Tanaka. "Commander," the AI assistant's voice interrupted his meditation. "Admiral Kovacs has initiated Shadow Protocol. Your presence is requested in Hangar 7. Tanaka opened his eyes. Acknowledged. The specialized infiltration vessel waiting for him in Hangar 7 resembled no conventional spacecraft. Designated the Whisper, it was barely larger than a personal transport pod, its exterior coated with experimental metamaterials that absorbed or redirected nearly all forms of detection. Its propulsion system, derived from recovered Viridian technology, generated no traceable exhaust. Dr. Immerse Singh, head of the Shadow Protocol development team, was making final adjustments when Tanaka arrived. "Commander," she greeted him without looking up from her diagnostic panel. "We've made some last-minute improvements to the cloaking system. The Viridian's quantum detection grid almost caught our test drone last week, but we've adjusted the phase variance." Tanaka nodded. "Will it hold against direct scanning?" "In theory, yes. But remember, this is primarily about minimizing your signature, not eliminating it entirely. You'll need to rely on your training as much as the technology." "Always do," Tanaka replied, running his hand along the Whisper's sleek hull. "What about the package?" Dr. Singh handed him a container the size of a cigarette pack. "The neural disruptor is ready. One pulse will temporarily paralyze any Viridian within 5 meters. The virus module has been updated to match their latest communication protocols. Once uploaded to their central node, it should spread throughout their entire network within minutes." And then chaos," she said grimly. "Their ships operate on a hive mind principle. Individualized thinking isn't their strong suit. The virus won't destroy them, but it will fragment their collective consciousness, making coordinated action impossible." Tanaka secured the package in his specialized infiltration suit. "That's our window." "A small one," Admiral Kovacs said as she entered the hangar. "Our models suggest we'll have 20 minutes at most before they establish secondary communication channels." She approached Tanaka, her expression solemn. "Commander, I won't insult you with platitudes about the importance of this mission. If we can't disrupt their coordination, Earth falls within the week." "I understand, Admiral. Launch is scheduled for 400. The fleet will move to create a diversion near Titan. Intelligence suggests the Viridian's flagship will be positioned here." She indicated a point on the holographic display. "Their central communication node should be located in the command sector, heavily guarded but accessible through their maintenance conduits." Tanaka studied the schematics. The entry point. Their vessels recycle atmosphere through external vents. We've identified one with minimal security measures here. She pointed to a location near the vessel's midsection. It's a tight squeeze, but that's my specialty. Tanaka finished with a slight smile. As the preparations continued around him, Tanaka retreated into the quiet center of his mind where focus lived. His grandfather's voice echoed from years of training. The ninja's greatest weapon was never the sword or shuriken, but the ability to become nothing, a shadow among shadows, present yet unseen. In space, there were no shadows to hide within. But Tanaka would become something even more elusive, a ghost among the stars. The launch of the Whisper was deliberately timed to coincide with a minor solar flare, using the electromagnetic interference as additional cover. As Tanaka's vessel slipped away from the lunar base, the main Earth defense fleet began its movement toward Titan, drawing the attention of Viridian scouts. Communication blackout initiated, Tanaka reported as his ship entered the stealth operational zone. Going dark now. Godspeed, Commander, came Admiral Kovac's final transmission before the channel closed. The journey to the Viridian fleet took 11 tense hours, during which Tanaka maintained minimal life support and propulsion systems. The Whisper drifted more than flew, its trajectory calculated to appear like natural debris if detected at all. Through the viewport, Tanaka finally saw the imposing silhouette of the Viridian flagship, a massive structure resembling an elongated hexagon, with countless smaller vessels swarming around it like insects protecting their queen. The alien design favored function over aesthetics, with external components that seemed haphazardly attached, giving the vessel an organic, almost living appearance. Beginning approach sequence, Tanaka whispered to himself, activating the targeting system that would guide him to the maintenance vent identified in their intelligence. The Whisper's sensors detected periodic sweeps of quantum radar emanating from the Viridian vessels. Each time a sweep approached, Tanaka adjusted his vessel's orientation, using the metamaterial hull to scatter the detection beams. When he finally reached the target vent, Tanaka deployed the magnetic anchors that secured the Whisper to the Viridian flagship's hull with the gentlest of touches. The ship's external sensors confirmed what visual observation had suggested. The aliens were completely unaware of his presence. First phase complete, he noted in the mission log. Beginning infiltration. The specialized airlock of the Whisper connected directly to the external vent. Tanaka's infiltration suit, another marvel of human engineering, adjusted its external temperature and electromagnetic signature to match the surrounding hull material. To any internal sensors, he would register as nothing more than a routine fluctuation in the recycling system. As he slipped into the narrow maintenance conduit, Tanaka was struck by the alien nature of the Viridian ship. Unlike human vessels with their straight lines and logical layout, the internal structure followed a seemingly chaotic pattern of curved passages and irregular chambers. The atmosphere was denser than Earth standard, with a slightly acidic quality that his suit's filters struggled to neutralize completely. The intelligence provided by Earth's xenobiologists had been accurate in its essentials. The Viridians communicated not just through audible sounds, but also through subtle electromagnetic fields generated by organs in what humans would call their upper torsos. This made traditional eavesdropping impossible, but allowed Tanaka's specialized sensors to track their movements through the ship. 3 signatures approaching, his suit's AI warned through the bone conduction earpiece. Tanaka pressed himself into a recessed section of the conduit wall, activating the suit's adaptive camouflage. 3 Viridians glided past, tall, willowy beings with 4 upper limbs and skin that shifted colors subtly as they moved. Their facial features were minimal, with sensor organs arranged in a circular pattern where humans would have eyes. They passed without pause, their electromagnetic communication registering as faint static in Tanaka's sensors. Following the schematics provided by intelligence, Tanaka made his way deeper into the ship, toward the central command sector. Twice he had to freeze in place as Viridian security drones swept through the corridors. insectoid machines programmed to detect anomalies in the ship's environment. The command center was heavily guarded, as expected, with multiple security checkpoints between the maintenance areas and the sensitive inner chambers. But the Viridians' confidence in their technological superiority had created a vulnerability. They relied almost exclusively on automated systems rather than direct observation. Tanaka identified the communication node, a crystalline structure pulsing with energy at the center of a large chamber. 6 Viridians worked at various stations around it, their movements synchronized in a way that suggested they were directly connected to the ship's network. From his position in a ventilation shaft above the chamber, Tanaka assessed the situation. The neural disruptor would temporarily incapacitate the Viridians, but the automated systems would immediately detect the anomaly. He needed a distraction. Right on schedule, the distant rumble of explosions reverberated through the ship's structure. The Earth Defense Fleet had begun its diversionary attack, targeting the outlying vessels of the Viridian Armada. Alarms sounded throughout the flagship, and the Viridians in the communication chamber began moving with increased urgency. 2 of them left the room, heading presumably toward battle stations. 4 remained, their attention fixed on the pulsing central node. Tanaka removed the neural disruptor from his suit and calibrated it for maximum effect with minimal spread. Then he waited, counting his heartbeats to maintain focus. When the next series of explosions shook the ship, he struck. Dropping silently from the ventilation shaft, he activated the disruptor. The 4 Viridians collapsed instantly, their bodies convulsing briefly before going still. Tanaka moved quickly to the central node, removing the virus module from its protective case. The crystalline structure had no obvious input mechanism, but intelligence had suggested the Viridians interfaced with their technology through direct electromagnetic interaction. Placing the module against the pulsing crystal, Tanaka activated the transmission sequence. For several tense seconds, nothing happened. Then the crystal's rhythmic pulsing faltered, became erratic, and finally settled into a new pattern, one that carried the insidious virus throughout the Viridian communication network. "Virus deployed," Tanaka whispered into his suit's recorder. "Beginning extraction." But as he turned to leave, the chamber door slid open, revealing a Viridian unlike any he had seen before. Taller than the others, with skin that rippled with complex patterns of light, this being emanated an electromagnetic field so powerful that Tanaka's sensors overloaded momentarily. The Hive commander had arrived, and it was staring directly at him. Ghosts in the void. For one eternal moment, Tanaka stood frozen as the Viridian Hive commander's sensory organs focused on him. The alien's skin pulsed with rapid patterns of light, what intelligence had identified as their equivalent of speech, but too complex for Tanaka's translation software to process in real time. Then the commander raised all 4 of its upper limbs, and Tanaka's training took over. He threw himself sideways as energy discharged from the alien's specialized appendages, rolling behind the crystalline communication node for protection. His hand went to the shuriken-inspired throwing discs at his belt, modernized versions of the ancient ninja weapon, edged with molecular-sharp carbon composite and equipped with disruptor tech. Tanaka sent 2 spinning toward the commander in quick succession. The first was batted away by a lightning-fast limb movement, but the second connected, embedding itself in what passed for the alien's shoulder. The disruptor pulse activated on impact, and the commander staggered, but it didn't fall. Resistant to neural disruption, Tanaka noted mentally as he calculated his escape route. The virus was already working. He could see it in the erratic pulsing of the communication node, and hear it in the chaotic alarm patterns now blaring throughout the ship. His mission was technically complete. Now he needed to survive. Security drones swarmed into the chamber, their insectoid forms scanning frantically for the intruder. The Hive commander had recovered enough to direct them, its skin flashing commands that the machines instantly obeyed. Tanaka activated his suit's emergency protocols. The outer layer generated a momentary electromagnetic pulse that confused the drone's sensors, creating precious seconds of chaos. He used that window to leap back into the ventilation shaft, pulling himself into the narrow space as energy weapons scorched the metal where he had stood. Extraction route compromised, he reported into his suit's recorder as he crawled rapidly through the maintenance ducts. Implementing contingency plan Delta. Delta meant abandoning the planned exit route and finding an alternative way off the ship, preferably one that wouldn't get him killed in the process. But first, he needed to put distance between himself and the pursuing Viridians. Throughout the flagship, the virus was wreaking havoc on the aliens' communication systems. Without their collective consciousness to coordinate their actions, individual Viridians were struggling to maintain order. Security protocols were activating randomly, sealing some sections while leaving others wide open. Tanaka used this confusion to his advantage, moving away from the command sector and toward the vessel's outer hull. His suit's sensors detected fewer life forms in this direction, likely because most combat-capable Viridians were focused on the Earth fleet's attack near Titan. Admiral Kovacs, he attempted to broadcast once he reached a less shielded section. Shadow Protocol executed successfully. Request extraction coordinates. Static answered him. The Viridians' jamming systems were still operational, even if their communications were compromised. He would have to make it back to the Whisper on his own. A sudden shift in the ship's gravity told Tanaka that the flagship was changing course, likely disengaging from the battle to deal with the internal crisis. This complicated matters significantly. His infiltration vessel was attached to a specific external vent that would now be moving to an unknown position. As he navigated through the increasingly chaotic vessel, Tanaka encountered small groups of disoriented Viridians. Some seemed barely functional without the hive mind's guidance, moving aimlessly or standing completely still. Others had adapted quickly, forming small tactical units that moved with purpose. It was these organized groups that posed the greatest threat. They had realized that their communication breakdown wasn't a malfunction but an attack, and they were hunting for the saboteur. Tanaka narrowly avoided one such group by pressing himself into a recessed alcove as they passed. His suit's adaptive camouflage matched the metallic surface perfectly, but a single Viridian paused, its sensory organs scanning slowly across his position. For an instant, Tanaka was certain he'd been detected. He readied another disruptor disk, calculating the angle needed to take down all 4 aliens before they could raise an alarm. Then a distant explosion rocked the ship, and the Viridian turned away, rejoining its group as they moved toward the disturbance. The Earth fleet was fighting more aggressively than expected, targeting critical systems on the Viridian vessels rather than engaging in direct combat. Without coordinated defenses, the alien ships were vulnerable to these precision strikes. Tanaka used the battle as cover for his extraction, working his way back toward the maintenance vent where the Whisper waited. The ship's automated defenses were in disarray, some shutting down completely while others fired at phantom targets. When he finally reached the external section, he discovered a new problem. The maintenance vent had been sealed as part of the ship's emergency protocols. The Whisper was still attached to the hull, but the direct passage was blocked. Implementing extraction alternative Bravo, Tanaka noted calmly, though his heart rate spiked briefly before his training brought it back under control. Alternative Bravo was a scenario they had rehearsed, but hoped never to use. Exiting through an adjacent airlock without a direct connection to his vessel, effectively walking along the hull in his infiltration suit to reach the Whisper. The suit could maintain life support for approximately 20 minutes in the vacuum of space, assuming it wasn't damaged in the process. Using his specialized equipment, Tanaka overrode the airlock controls and prepared for depressurization. Just as the cycle began, his sensors detected multiple Viridians approaching rapidly from both directions of the corridor. They're adapting faster than expected, he observed as the inner door sealed and the atmosphere vented from the small chamber. The Viridians reached the airlock just as the outer door opened, their limbs pounding against the reinforced barrier. Tanaka stepped out onto the hull of the massive flagship, magnetic boots securing him to the surface as he oriented himself toward the Whisper's location. The battle raged around him. Earth vessels engaging the confused Viridian fleet with unexpected effectiveness. Energy weapons crisscrossed the void, and debris from damaged ships drifted in chaotic patterns. Moving methodically across the hull, Tanaka kept his profile low, using the irregular surface features as cover whenever possible. His suit's readout showed 15 minutes of life support remaining when he spotted the Whisper, still securely attached where he had left it. He was halfway to the vessel when his proximity sensors screamed a warning. A Viridian security drone had detected his movement and was reorienting to intercept. These external drones were designed to repair hull damage during battle, but they could easily be repurposed as weapons. The drone closed rapidly, extending appendages designed to manipulate metal and composite materials. Tanaka had no illusions about what those appendages would do to his suit if they connected. With no cover available, he made a calculated risk, detaching his magnetic boots from the hull and using his suit's minimal maneuvering thrusters to launch himself toward the Whisper. The drone adjusted course to intercept, its metal appendages reconfiguring into more threatening forms. Tanaka waited until the last possible moment before firing one of his remaining disruptor discs directly into the drone's sensor array. The electromagnetic pulse disabled the machine momentarily, long enough for Tanaka to sail past it and reach the Whisper's airlock. The infiltration vessel recognized his suit's signature and began the docking sequence automatically. As the airlock cycled, Tanaka's sensors detected multiple drones now converging on his position. The Viridians had identified the unknown vessel attached to their hull and were moving to neutralize it. Initiating emergency departure, he announced to the empty cabin as he strapped himself into the pilot's seat. The Whisper's systems came online instantly, detaching from the Viridian hull just as the first drone arrived. The small vessel accelerated away from the flagship, its stealth systems immediately activating to mask its departure. On the tactical display, Tanaka could see that the battle had shifted dramatically. The Earth fleet was pressing its advantage against the disorganized Viridians, targeting propulsion systems and weapons arrays with surgical precision. EDF Indomitable. This is Shadow One. Tanaka broadcast once he'd reached a safe distance. Mission accomplished. Requesting rendezvous coordinates. After a brief delay, Admiral Kovac's voice responded. Shadow One, we read you. The virus worked better than we hoped. Their entire command structure is in disarray. Sending coordinates now. As the Whisper changed course to rejoin the Earth fleet, Tanaka allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. The Viridians had believed themselves invulnerable, their technology so far advanced that humans could never pose a serious threat. They had dismissed stealth as a primitive concept, relevant only to species that hadn't mastered quantum detection and hive mind awareness. They had been wrong. A single human, combining ancient techniques with modern technology, had accomplished what an entire fleet could not, striking at the heart of the enemy's strength and exposing the fatal flaw in their unified consciousness. As he reached the Earth fleet, now regrouped and pressing their advantage against the still confused Viridian forces, Tanaka received a direct communication from Admiral Kovacs. The tide has turned, Commander, she said, her voice steady, but with an undercurrent of cautious hope. Their ships are retreating from Saturn orbit. For the first time since this war began, we've pushed them back. It won't be the last time. Tanaka replied with quiet confidence. 3 months later, as the reconstructed Earth Defense Fleet prepared to take the offensive for the first time, legends were already spreading throughout the galaxy about the humans and their ghost warriors. Infiltrators who could penetrate any defense, saboteurs who could appear and disappear at will. Other species, long intimidated by Viridian technological superiority, began to reconsider their allegiances. Intelligence reports suggested that the Viridians had fundamentally redesigned their command structures, abandoning the efficiency of their hive mind approach in favor of more distributed networks, less vulnerable to targeted disruption. Commander Tanaka, now heading the new Ghost Operative Training Program at the lunar base, studied these reports with interest. The Viridians had adapted, as all successful species must, but in doing so, They had acknowledged something significant about humanity, that sometimes the oldest techniques, refined and updated but rooted in ancient wisdom, could overcome even the most advanced technology. In the dark between the stars, the ghosts of humanity were waiting, and the galaxy would never be the same.